Ready? All right, good. Hi, my name is Jacob Cox, and I'm here today to talk about awakening, the shift, activating our light body, DNA upgrade, and a whole bunch more in Ascension, and a whole bunch more. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let's talk about the Earth. We all live on the planet Earth, and we all realize there are a lot of things that are happening right now. Earthquakes, volcanoes going off, solar storms hitting the Earth, and it's changing. It's changing us. It's changing on the planet very rapidly, faster than it probably ever has, that we know of. One thing we do know about the Earth is people around the world call it Mother Nature, or Mother Earth. And I think that's very clear and evident because it nurtures us. It gives us life. It feeds us. All these things are very important. And it's got that mother, divine, feminine energy, just like, a woman. And the world is giving birth. It's giving birth right now to a new generation, to a new species, I believe, even, of people, of animals, of plants. There's a vibrational frequency on the Earth that's happening right now. It's never happened. That's literally changing things and making it different. So the Earth is in this gestation period of this 26,000-year cycle, the precession of the equinoxes, in which we have basically started over to the beginning. So we will begin to experience new things that we have forgotten. One thing that people sometimes don't associate with Mother Earth is the sun is actually the masculine representation in the universe. Father, Son, Mother Earth. People don't think about it like that. There's definitely no doubt that the ancients knew this, and they practiced this, and they realized that the sun was a living being. That it is consciousness, it is alive, it is thinking, it is throwing out energy, which is light, which is helping us live. But also, when people correlate the solar cycles with civilization, not just good or not bad, but good and bad things, the solar cycles line completely in tune with the solar cycles of the sun and civilization, discoveries, things like that. So we realize that the sun really literally is a living being, and it represents the divine masculine, and the Mother Earth represents the divine feminine. So together, collectively, you need both of them. You can't have one without the other. You need both in order to be able to have this karmic dance of energy and having us be able to live, because we got to have the Earth and the sun to be able to live on the planet. So the sun right now is throwing out solar flares, huge, massive solar flares. We are in a solar maximum. So what does this mean? It means that these plasma bursts are actually coming, hitting the Earth, but our shield down over here is down like it's never been before. It actually has holes in it, and it's having an effect. It's having an effect on May 13th is when four X-class solar flares went off. Now, it takes a couple days for those things to come off. Once those things got here, what happened? We had one of the biggest tornadoes in Oklahoma that's ever happened, that's happened in a long time. You had earthquakes, which probably aren't as on the news as much, but some 8.4s, some 7.8s all around the world, some massive earthquakes. And so these solar flares are actually inducing this energy to happen on the Earth. And it's not negative necessarily. When a woman goes through childbirth, she has pain, she has agony, she screams, there's blood. But after all that's said and done, you have a baby, you have a child, and all of that's forgotten. We're in the birthing pains. Mother Earth is birthing a new species, a new generation, and old systems that were working before that seem to be crumbling. They're crumbling for a reason, because they're no longer serving us anymore. So the solar storms actually have an effect on us. The volcanoes, the earthquakes are also the revelations in your life, the epiphanies, the aha moments. It's the same thing. Your relationships have probably been more intense. Knowing the fact that these solar storms hit the sun, I ask people, how has your past 2 or 3 days been there? Oh my gosh, let me tell you about the past 2 or 3 days. This is happening, and this is happening. With our relationship with this person is super intense, and that's because the solar storm is not just affecting the Earth, but it's affecting every single one of us. So this picture, this art, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but I think it makes a great representation of what we're talking about. So we have oneness down here, the circle, and what you can't see here is the caduceus, the serpent intertwined on the staff. That represents duality. So we go from 1 to 2. And then what you can't see down here even more is the Trinity. And then it goes 1, 2, 3, and then the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. And out of the elements comes life and animals and dinosaurs. And then we get to a place over here with mammals, and you see the Garden of Eden and the Buddha. And then we get to a place right here where we have the Christ, and we crucify the Christ. And it seems that we're in some kind of place in our evolutionary period where we have become completely darkness. We have completely forgotten who we are, where we come from, what our purpose is here. And I think we're right here at this cusp, where everything is about to start changing into a 5-dimensional frequency, maybe more, into where we have relationships with our spirit guides, we have relationships with angels, masters, ancient, ascended masters, and I think that's where we are right here. I think we live in a very exciting time in our world, and it's not something to be scared of, it's not something to be worried about, but it's something to be aware of, to be conscious of, because that is where we're going to find our power, and we're going to find that it's not to be running around scared and be worried about everything. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move from a world like this that's in peril with the industries, the systems, things are on fire. You see the wires that are going to the tree here, and they are basically taking from it, when over here there's not anything taken from it. It's Mother Nature just flowing freely, the animals, the plants, the people. You know, we want to move from this world over here to this world over here, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So we are awakening. We are awakening as one. We are uniting to a new world, a new way of living, a new way of understanding. And guess what? Our old systems we're going to have to burn down or crumble to the ground in order for this to happen. So once we awaken, it's hard to go back to sheep. Sheep being in the Bible, where you talk about, you know, it's us. It's a metaphor for people, that we have been followers instead of leaders. We have been following other people to tell us where to go, and they're leading us right off the edge of the cliff. You know, and we're blindly doing it. And anytime somebody wants to get out of the sheep fence, some other sheep saying, "Hey, don't get out. Stay in here. What are you doing? What are you thinking? You're crazy. Don't talk about conspiracy theories. Don't talk about metaphysical things. That stuff doesn't, you know, that's not on television. That's not normal." Well, what's on television isn't exactly normal, and as much you make you think that it is normal. So we're awakening. We're awakening what? We're awakening a third eye, a pineal gland. A gland in the center of your brain that actually has a lens, a cornea, a retina. It's shaped like a tiny pine cone. And it has more blood flow than any other, per the pineal gland, than any other organ. More blood flow per organ than any other in the pineal gland. It's, like I said, it's in the very center of your soul. It's in the very center of your brain, the pineal gland is, and it looks like a tiny pine cone. Jesus said, "If your eye be single, your whole body shall be full of light." He's talking about the one, the singular eye. If your eye is single, not your two eyes that you see with the physical world, but your single eye that's inside of your brain. When you see with that, you no longer need to listen to other people. You break out of the sheep pen. You become a shepherd. It's called the pineal gland because it looks like a tiny pine cone. And scientists today are finding out that it actually does glow. And that's important later on. We'll talk about why that's important. The parable of a lampstand makes sense when you start to see. You don't put a light at the bottom of the bowl. No, you put it at the top for all to see, for all to shine, and it's very important. So Rene Descartes called the pineal gland the seat of the soul, and I believe that's dead on accurate. And here's the pineal gland. Fluoride is deposited here as a result of fluoridated products, as in water. We know that in America today we fluoride our water because people say it's good for your teeth. Well, fluoride is a very toxic chemical. It is not good for you, and it's found to have no benefits to your health, only negative ones. So it's very hard to understand why people can keep putting that on there unless they're trying to keep you from accessing all that you really and truly are. So the pineal gland looks like a pine cone. So you see this art all over the place. This is the Pope's staff. This is Sumerian god with the pine cone. Again, the Pope's staff up here. And this is the pine cone. It's huge in the Vatican. It's to a person stands, right above here. They're very small compared to. And it's also a green pine cone, which symbolizes the fact that your pineal gland is immature. They want to keep your pineal gland immature, because then, as long as you think that someone else is your mediator to God, you'll pay a priest, you'll pay a service, you'll go tell someone else your sins and let them forgive you. But to be honest, you're already forgiven for everything you've ever done. God is unconditional love. But as long as someone can keep you thinking that you need to go somewhere else to be saved or something, you're powerless. So again, you can see right here the people in the background, really small. The staff of Osiris in Egypt has a pine cone on top of it. Also the snakes, the Kundalini serpent, which you see, the medical staff is the symbol for that. This is Bacchus in Greek. He has a pine cone on his. Dionysus in Greece also has a pine cone on top. These are gods. Sumerian god with a pine cone in his hand. Again, Sumerian gods. This is Shiva. You see his eye is single. That's what the bindi means right here. This is his third eye. There's all kinds of other different symbology in here, of course. The Kundalini serpent being one. And another thing I like to point out is this bun on top of his head is not just his hair, but I think it's a bun of enlightenment that each of us can grow to elongate our own goals. And I'll get into that a little bit later on. So again, here's Shiva again, how large this thing is, the Kundalini serpent, the bun on top of his head. King Tut, he has a snake coming out of his third eye. Also the Birdman motif, which you hear a lot about. Different people who have the Birdman symbol. This is Akhenaten. He was an Egyptian god. He was killed. But notice the Kundalini serpent and this crazy looking hat, which was probably to cover up his elongated skull, which is not probably, because he actually did have an elongated skull once he was dug up and found. This is Ra from Egypt. He's the Birdman with the aura around his head. Once you become enlightened enough, your pineal gland not just glows inside of your brain, but that light penetrates outside of your physical body as well, just like this. And the Buddha, and his eye was no doubt singular, and there's the bun on top of his head. His hair actually kind of looks like a pine cone, and this is his aura coming, stems from his third eye that goes around his head. And the Buddha again, the Kundalini serpent energy, that he has mastered his Kundalini serpent, which could also play into the part with the dragon of medieval times and stuff, the knight that conquers the dragons. The dragon is your reptilian nature that you have to conquer. Buddha again, his eye is single, his whole body's full of light. He's got the bun of enlightenment on top of his head. A color picture here, the same thing. I like how it's got the animals in the background, the disciples, people following. They recognize the fact that this person is a higher being, and they're trying in whatever way they can to be like that person. Again, very similar picture. And you see in the background here, these people have this weird looking thing, hat on top of their head. I think it also, again, is to symbolize this bun right here that these people are trying to imitate. And again, you see the animals over here, that they're just hanging around. They're not afraid. When an animal senses fear, it's going to run. It's going to come after you. But when an animal realizes that you are light inside, it recognizes you. It's not afraid of you. And therefore, a story about Daniel the lion's den of a man who was already awakened inside. You put him in a cage with lions, and lions are going to come after him. He makes friends with the lions because he's the light. Buddha, again, Buddha with the bun on top of his head, the aura around his head, and not only that, but the aura around his whole body. And we'll talk about the aura around the whole body later on. Another great picture of Buddha, the buns, the enlightenment. This one's Krishna. Krishna has a single eye. He has the Kundalini serpent that he's mastered. He has the bun on top of his head of enlightenment. He's got a lot of other things, but that's what we're focusing on right now. Krishna, his third eye is single, or around his head. He's a god from India. This is Krishna's family. Notice how everybody in the family has something on top of their head. That's pretty neat. Confucius was said to have a misshapen head that looked like a crown on the top of his head. That is smoke a gun, right? So these pictures right here that you see over and over and over again, Where does it come from? Why are people drawing this? Where is this spark of creativity coming from that shows the same thing over and over again? Here's Jesus and the disciples, the oars around their heads. Obviously this is different a little bit, but still, nonetheless, it's something that everybody can attain, not just one person. And so the Christ consciousness is available to all of us. And I like this picture too because it kind of helps you see not just the one lampstand, but the 7 lampstands that's referred to in the book of Revelations, the lampstand, and how each one of these is actually a chakra point of energy, which today medical medicine is finding out that these centers correlate to the most parts of your body where you have the most electrical pulse at, where all the nervous systems line up to, which is pretty incredible that these people got this right on, thousands of years ago. So one thing about Jesus, we see that the third eye is single and his whole body is full of light, and obviously the light is coming around his head. But one thing you don't ever see is Jesus with this bun on his head, right? Well, that's true. But the Jews do wear a yarmulke. And why do they wear the yarmulke? They do it to symbolize humility. I started thinking about this one day. Why would you wear something, to be humble, to be humiliated? I think that they're actually doing this because they saw a person who had this, and they were using flattery as the highest form of imitation. We've all heard that. So they were imitating the greatest person they'd ever seen, a master in the flesh. And this is a picture of King Tut after he was dug up, what he would have looked like, and he had an elongated skull. And if you start to think about it, if Jesus was an enlightened being and had a crown, which was some kind of misshapen head in the back, and they even talk about the crown of thorns that they put around his head, and he was called the King of the Jews. Why? And why is this top part of your head called the crown of your skull? There is something that happens when the Kundalini energy reaches the top of your head that gives you a crown that misshapens your person's head. And that would make sense to why in Egypt, Peru, South America, Africa, almost every country around the world has these beings, these pictures, these beings with elongated skulls, and why they're actually doing this to their children, because they saw people, not just from other planets, but people from our own stock, people who actually, literally, physically, mentally, spiritually got there, and they actually were walking around, and they looked like this, and people were imitating. I'm not saying that every single one was an enlightened being or was an alien. I'm just saying the possibility is for sure there. So it does kind of make sense why you see the wizards wearing a pointy hat. What is he doing here? Why is he wearing a pointy hat? He's covering up his elongated skull. Why? Because when you find out someone who is that in tune with who they really are, and people see that and they realize that's you, that's me, but they're scared of themselves, what happens? They usually kill the person that's reminding you of who you really are. Of course, Jesus was crucified. Many wizards and witches were burned at the stake and killed not because they were devil worship or anything, but because they were doing the right things. They were understanding the right things, and people were scared. The Christians were literally afraid because they didn't know who they were. They had been disassociated so much to believing that someone else out there was to save them, when it was really you're the hero of your own life. You have to save yourself. No one's going to no one's going to make you sick. No one puts that, the bad things in your mouth. No one makes you say the negative things that you say to other people. It's all you. And if you want to stop those things, you have to change yourself around. So again, the Magi, the miracle workers, these people were actually enlightened beings, these nomadic people who didn't live in houses. They lived off the land. And I think that's pretty neat. And again, the witches also too wear the long cap to cover up their light skull. So the third eye is like your inner sun. It's inside of you. It's like an energy center that you can tap into. Once you awaken this energy center, it's your consciousness, your light that actually goes, it's in your body that you are. You're not just this physical body, but when you go to sleep, you're actually your astral body, your light body, your rainbow body is actually leaving your body and going to another dimension and having a whole nother life, a whole nother understanding with other beings and spirit guides, and you're coming back. And that's why dreams are profoundly important. So this is what's happening. Your light body is literally, it's you, but it's you as light. So you can go wherever you want to. You can go anywhere in the universe you want to. You can go see anything you want to. And the more awake you are, the more you're going to remember when you come back, the more, it's like a lucid dream, the more you're going to be able to control what's going on, where you're going, what you're seeing, who you're communicating with, and again, how much you remember when you come back. Like I said, you can go anywhere in the universe. The earth is not limited. Then this is Krishna, and this is basically his astral body projection, in which the snake is connected to him, and that's a little mini him of light that's going somewhere out there in the universe. So what is it that's happening? Is there a scientific understanding of this astral body projection? Yes, there is. It's called DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine, which is a psychedelic compound that's made in your pineal gland. Okay. So when you're sleeping, high states of meditation, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, this is what's happening. Dimethyltryptamine is being produced in your brain, which actually is it's called the spirit molecule. Rick Strassman, a medical doctor, calls it the spirit molecule, and it's actually the portal, the vehicle that's taking you from one dimension to other dimensions. And this is the book that he wrote, DMT, the Spirit Molecule, where he gives, in a hospital setting, a bunch of people DMT in a hospital bed, and it talks about their experiences, what they saw. It's very profound, and it's a great read. Check it out. So this is kind of what's happening. We're in this physical world of all the stuff that's going on and happening, and there's this other whole realm of things that are happening right here, right now, that we're not accessing, that we can access, but people don't want us to access, because then it would show us how important we really are, how connected that we really are. But people want us to be disconnected. They want us to believe and be fearful, when that's not what we're here for. And this is a painting by Alex Gray. It's called The Net of Being. Once I started to open up my pineal gland, once I started to have these astral body projections, I started to go to these places and started to remember. And I had an experience where I was a little soul swimming around in this, what is an infinitely huge space. And these little things, these little squares right here, are like galaxies. So this head was just so massive, it was incredible, and to say the least. And so I was swimming around in here, and I kind of looked it up, and I found this painting, and I was like, there's no way that someone could have drawn something so spot on. It's ridiculous. So I started looking up more about Alex Gray. Of course, he draws what he calls DMT artwork, which is super profound. And this grid of eyeballs, when I go to sleep or when I have a vision, I oftentimes will see this grid of eyeballs actually before I go over, and like clockwork. And so here's a picture of your third eye open, being used. And this is him. This is him seeing into a world that normally most of us aren't aware of. And this one's called Praying. Again, you see the inner sun. All words, all languages stemming out from this light, going around his head in the aura. And he's praying down here. You see the little sun here that's also your heart. I like that. The 7 chakras, the light around the third eye, the light around the body that stems from your heart. This one's titled Light Worker, which I think is very correct, because when each of us wake up, we all have a purpose, and we know it, we've forgotten it. We have to go back, we have to remember, we have to quieten our mind to realize what our purpose is again. And once you do, you realize you have a responsibility to help others. You have a responsibility to help wake up other people. You can't always wake up other people, but your responsibility is no doubt at least to awaken yourself enough to other people see it in you and realize it in you, and then want to change themselves. This one's titled Healing, and if you look right here, you see a picture of Christ, and I believe I've had experiences in healing sessions where I think that this is right on to what I felt in my own body. when I was doing a healing session. This one's called Cosmic Christ. Very cool. It's got all kinds of different pictures in it. And these are like the beings that you come in contact with once you go over to the other realm. So this is what it is. You're awakening. You are awakening to your true potential, to your full potential, who you really are, and that's exciting. I think that's extremely exciting. Not something to be afraid of. It's something to be very excited about. So once we've awakened our third eye, we need to learn how to use other parts of our brain, right? We're a left brain society. You hear that, the male side, and we need to awaken the whole thing. We didn't come here to use a portion of our brain or a portion of our DNA. We came here to use all of it. We need to remember how to do that. So once you turn your third eye on, your pineal gland on, your brain starts to open up. You start to have revelations, those epiphanies, the aha moments start to just speed up in your brain. You also start to have synchronicities happen, little things where you read something or you talk to someone about something, and then a couple minutes or a day later or something, a couple hours later, you see something that was just like, wow, that was too much to be a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. It is a connection. It is something that you should be paying attention to. These things happen all the time, and often we're not aware of them. We're not paying attention, or we just say, oh, that's a coincidence. When you are paying attention, you start to realize there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. So we're turning our brain on. We're letting this light come back into us. We're allowing this information to come back and open us up and realize, again, like I said, who we really are. And this enlightenment is to turn your brain on. So you've heard it said, like I said before earlier, the left brain, it's the left brain society, one that's built on language, science, and math. And the right brain over here, which we aren't experiencing as much, but oftentimes you hear about kids who are able to use more of their creativity, their art, music, but they have social problems. So they're maybe accessing more of their right brain than the left brain. So it's not that one's any bad, or one's bad, or one's worse, or one's better than the other. They're both equally important. You need both of them. So if you were in the right side of your brain, you would need to be able to move into the left side and use both. Our case, in our world today, we're using the left side of our brain. We need to occupy all of this. And again, like I said, it's not that one's any better than the other, but this is where your art is, this is where your passion is, the poetry, the creativity, and over here is your control, your analytical thought, your logic, which are good things. They're no doubt good things. You need both of these things. And this right side of your brain is like the feminine side of your body, and the left side of your brain is like the masculine. So you can't just have one. You need both of them. It's a balance. So when you are awakening your third eye, when you are being able to access your left and your right brain even more, you're also bringing the oneness back to yourself. You're balancing out yourself more to your masculine and feminine sides. All of us have male and female aspects of ourselves, and sometimes we lose that in the process of jobs and life and what everybody's talking about and the television, and you kind of fall into this game that's being played. But like I said, we are both. We are both male and female, and we need to awaken, especially the feminine side of ourselves. The feminine has been more held down than any other than race or anything else. Women have been held down more than anything else. And because they've been held down for so long, it's almost like a bobber on water. When you pull a bobber down, the more and more you pull it down, when you finally let it go, the farther it pops up out of the water. So we've held down women for so long, made them put on veils on their faces, told them that the men, a lot of religions say that men is in charge and that the man is the, whatever of the household. That's not true. We are all equal. We are all part of one body, so even more than equal. We're all part of the same thing. Again, another picture to symbolize that. So the greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind, and as you think, so you shall be. So our brains are very powerful, and it's not just what you're thinking about happens in here, but literally when you start thinking about things, this resonance starts to happen out in the whole physical manifestation. You affect everything. Our prayers affect things, our thoughts affect things, and that makes us very powerful beings. So this is bottom line I said, that relieving us from mental slavery, that we've been enslaved. We've enslaved ourselves. Freedom isn't someone walking around with a gun allowing you to go play on the lake all day. Freedom is being free from fear. Being able to think what you want to think, being able to feel what you want to feel, being able to love how you want to love unconditionally. So it's not, freedom isn't me carrying a gun or me having the right to be able to do anything. True freedom means I can put you anywhere in the world. I can sit you in a prison and you'll still be as happy as you can possibly be, no matter where you are, because you are free inside. So once we're free of our own brains, once we awaken, what is the next step? The next step is our heart. To open up and unlock a very important organ that we have, the heart. And once we start to awaken this and we start to actually use unconditional love, it starts to change us. And we don't realize when we work in frustration, when we work in competition, when we watch television shows, literally, when you're watching a television show and there's war on television, your brain and your heart are at war with each other. You are literally sending a signal from your heart and your brain out that says there's a war going on, to be afraid and to be fearful and, fight or flight. And this is actually causing stress and anxiety and incoherence between these two organs. Instead, when you practice love and appreciation, and your heart beats out a very different rhythm, and you actually have coherence in the two, allowing you to be able to use these two organs how they should be. So did you know that your heart emits electromagnetic fields that change according to your emotions? Yes, absolutely. And negative emotions can produce negative effects, like making your hair fall out, giving you wrinkles, and positive emotions can do that, make you look younger, make you feel younger, and make you healthier. And did you also know that positive emotions create psychological benefits in your body? Like I just told you. If you're positive, if you love, you're not going to stress yourself out as much, and you're going to look better. So, your heart rate, this is a person's heart rate hooked up when they're appreciating a sunset, when they're loving a friend, and this is somebody who's trying to work on something that's not happening for them, or whatever. And you can just look at this and tell. If your heart's beating in a rhythm like this, you're going to do a whole lot better than someone who's living a life like this. And now you start to realize why heart disease is the #1 killer around the world. It's literally because we're not using our hearts the way we should be. When you are fear-based, when you're working competition, when you are hating some other team because the colors that they wear or where they're from, you are literally doing detrimental effects to your body, period. So stop and start loving and start sending out a new signal, a new frequency. And when you do that, you actually will change the frequency of not just yourself, but others around you and your world. So no matter what comes in, no matter who comes into your life and says this to you or says that to you or tells you you're not gonna, just let it come in and realize that it's an experience for you to learn, for you to gain some information about, some insight on, and move on. But don't get so wrapped up in your ego that you have to play it back and say, well, you're this and you're that, and let the game in with that, with you. And so when you have a healthy heart and you turn that thing on, it's going to change you. And no matter, like I said, no matter what, no matter all the people around you, what they're feeling, what they're watching on television, what their topic is, don't let it affect you. Don't let it get to you, because there's no reason for it at all. So open up your heart and let that love out. Let your light shine. Start a new frequency for yourself, one based on unconditional love. There's no doubt that this will make you a better person. It will change the way you look. It will change the way you feel. And when you start to love everybody unconditionally, others will see it in you, and they'll want what you got. And when you do change your heart, it does literally change the world. John Hagelin found out when they did meditations all around the world, and just a few hundred people in a city meditating at the same time reduced war, reduced rape, reduced aggravated assaults, reduced crimes like that dramatically by just having people meditate in a city at the same time. That's all. Didn't take anything else. So you're literally giving the world a hug when you change yourself. Yeah, I just love it. Open up your heart and let it out. Love, just to love. That's why we're here. And I like this picture for the Heart Math Institute, which is the Torus field energy. And you see this frustration coming in, but no matter what, he's sending love out. It also makes you think too, a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. And considering that we are all more like trees than you could possibly imagine, each of us built to the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, all of these things are literally our vessels, our nervous systems, our blood vessels, all branch out like trees do. But a good tree doesn't bear bad fruit, and a bad tree doesn't bear good fruit. Why? Because if you are a good person, if you are loving the way you should be, if you are doing the things you should be, you're not going to get cancer. You're not going to get diseases. These things are not going to happen to you. If you are having cancer, if you have a disease, you need to take a step back and think about your life and think about what you're doing and what you're projecting out, what you're taking in, the people you're talking to, how you're talking to people. All these things, if you are doing, if you're not living in love, your body is literally going to send something into your way, because your body's a perfect machine. You get a cut on your arm, it heals itself. Your body heals itself. So how come it's letting in disease or cancer or AIDS or whatever it is? It's because the foods that we're eating, they're modified to not be organic. They're modified to have chemicals in them that is not natural to our body. These things bring us down and make our immune system not be able to fight these things off. But there's no doubt, no matter what kind of food you're eating, if you're truly living in love and you really do love yourself, I've heard many cases of people with cancers and all kinds of other diseases who have had spontaneous remissions because they stopped working and they started living their life the way they wanted to, or they stopped being stressed out, or they started watching funny movies, all the time and laughed and just enjoyed life like you're supposed to. So when you actually start to live in love, what you find out is that there are electromagnetic fields that come from your heart. One that comes from your brain too. And now we're talking about science. But the one from the heart is 100 times stronger electrically and 5,000 times stronger magnetically. Up to 5,000 times stronger, maybe even more. And so that shows you why through all time you see, I showed you pictures earlier of the Buddha and stuff, they have this aura field around their body and their head. And the one around the body was much greater. That's because the heart sends out a much larger electromagnetic field that can be measured now with scientific instruments. So no longer are we talking about voodoo, hocus pocus, auras, new age stuff. We're talking about real science, something that says this is really happening. It's not something that's, people are trying to get you to think that this is some kind of new age thing. No, this is something that's real. It's something that you can actually measure with scientific instruments. And it's an electromagnetic field. This actually is the same field that you'll see around the earth and other things. And it's like a wireless circuitry of your whole entire body coming out. And so when you eat the wrong foods, when you treat people the wrong way, you're actually detrimentally affecting your wireless circuits of your body. This energy that's supposed to be working in cooperation together. But since we work in a left brain world, competition, I'm better than you actually start to do that to your own body. Over 7 trillion cells in your body. And when you start to think about competition, you start to think, I'm better than you, I have a better car, I have a better house, I have more money, your cells actually are little used. They start to work in competition with all the other cells. And if your cells start to work in competition with each other, what happens? Disease, cancer, all those kind of things. So this is the electromagnetic field that you see. This is your 0 point in it. It's really neat because, like I said, It's an electromagnetic field around the Earth, around the galaxy. Even stars like Torus have taken this path where they go up and out and back up again, and they make this circle throughout the galaxy. It's kind of like an hourglass. Think about it, hourglass in time. So these electromagnetic fields are around everyone. Some people have stronger magnetic fields than others. That's why when you meet someone, you don't even have to talk to them. You know if they're in a good mood or not. You know if they're upset. You don't have to say anything. A lot of times you can also feel someone you've just met. You can feel their field from 2, 3, 4, 5 feet away. You can tell, is this the kind of person I want to talk to? Is this the kind of person I'd like to get to know more? Does this person make me feel good? It's because you can feel their energy. You can't hide it. I love this picture right here. So look at this, electromagnetism. This is a metal magnet, and these are iron filings, and you can literally see how this toroidal shape works, and how this is how our cells, mitosis and everything might actually split apart. And it's that electromagnetic field that's actually making them split apart. It's also, I showed you around the person, around the planets, around the galaxy, and look at this. You have a toroidal field around an apple. And here's your 0 point, your seeds inside. So the all is in the small. This is again the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio. Everything from the galaxies to hurricanes, it all spirals in. All is in the small. You are a fractal of the whole. You are a co-creator. Made after God's own image and His own likeness. It all works the same way. There is no separation. We are not separate from anything. Separation is the illusion. We are all one. Your eyes look the same thing as a nebula. The birth of a cell is the same as the death of a star. Your brain cells look the same as the whole universe. Amazing. So, when your heart actually, when you start to live in love, when you start to penetrate, it changes you. Like I told you before, it will change you. It changes your DNA. It changes the molecules that you're made of. Makes you look different. Makes you feel different. Even the DNA is this double helix spiral wave pattern. But one thing about the DNA, we have 20 out of 64 amino acids turned on. 20, 21, 22, somewhere in there. Which is not even half. Scientists have coined the other term, that's junk DNA. So they're saying the majority of our DNA is junk DNA. Although there is nothing in the universe that's junk. Nothing. The only junk there is what people make. So these things are broken. They're like broken rings. And if you think about it, the DNA strand looks like a ladder. Literally. It looks like a ladder. And so if these little rings are broken in the DNA and they're not connected like as they should be, then you're not allowed to make that ascension up. It makes the story of Jacob's ladder that much more understandable. A ladder that ascended him to heaven. Not aliens coming down from another planet and jumping out or whatever and someone getting in, but literally when you turn your DNA on, when you live in love, you actually connect these broken rings and you're allowed to then ascend up higher to higher levels of awareness, to higher levels of activating your DNA, and higher levels of activating your pineal gland, and to be able to, when you go to sleep, have visions and dreams, and actually have more awakening awareness as well. But if these rungs are broken, you cannot ascend, and you will stay in that way of life, in that way of being, until you love. So these are crop circles showing the triple helix DNA. And why the triple helix DNA? Well, you know we have the double helix DNA. These things seem to be referring to the fact that there's a triple. And even some people past that think we're moving even beyond the triple helix to a quadruple or even more. And they've actually found a quadruple helix, which they think will actually help eliminate cancer. That may be what's happening. We may be literally changing from a double helix strand. Somehow we've been disconnected, we've been taken away from this, and we may be activating the 3, 4, maybe even, there's even a lot of books and a lot of people saying right now that we're going to be going back to a 12-strand DNA. 12 strands. And if we're using 20 out of 64 amino acids in a double helix, I just don't even have a clue. Imagination doesn't even start with how awesome it would be if we were using all of our DNA, if we were using all of our hearts and all of our brains instead of using 5 to 10%. Imagine using 25% or 50% or 75% of your brain and your DNA. What kind of world do you think we would live in if we were really accessing all that we really were? You know, this is a shapeshifter, and you know, it's very possible we could be shapeshifting. There'd be people flying around like Apollo and Zeus and stuff who flew around in the past. The gods of yesterday maybe coming back to see us again. So the Earth is literally blasting off new DNA to us, upgrading our DNA. That this vibratory frequency that's happening in the Earth, that's happening on the Sun, is literally changing us. It's giving us a DNA upgrade. It's changing what we know life to be. And if it comes to a little difficulty of moving into a new system, that's okay. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to. It's not going to be easy off the bat. There are going to be things that you're going to have to die out. And if you're still hanging on to getting in a fight with your buddy Joe because you want to win because your ego is bigger than his, it's going to be even tougher. So when these solar storms hit, when these volcanoes are going off, these revelations are going off in you, and it's going to be harder for you until you let go of that and let your ego go and let it resurrect. So we're literally changing. One thing that we do see in evolutionary terms when we dig people up is we find that all of a sudden there seems to be one species of animal and then all of a sudden there's another. But there's, you know, Darwin said that the evolution happened over millions of years, things evolved. But that's not the case when you dig things up. You start to realize that one thing was this, and then there was this, and there's this, but where's the missing link? Everybody's like, where's the missing link? We can't find a missing link. There is no missing link, because just like if you watch somatics on a table, on a metal plate, when that sound vibrates and it gets to a threshold moment, it actually changes drastically fast. Your body is not as solid as you think it is. It's trillions of particles vibrating at a high speed so fast, just like a movie. A movie is frame by frame, but you see it so fast it looks like one continuous motion. Your body is vibrating at such a quick rate that it's actually looks solid, but it is not. And so these sounds that are coming from the center of our universe, or wherever they're coming from, that it's God literally changing and the planets are rotating around because of it. When this frequency gets higher and higher and higher, you know, that's what they said the trumpets will sound. There's a sound literally pulsating through and making us look like what we're supposed to look like, animals and plants, where they're supposed to be on the planet, and as they get higher, things will change. Plants will change, animals will change, people will change. And to a species of something that we've probably never seen before on this planet. So this is where we've been, living in fear. I'm not good enough. I'm a sinner. I'm not worthy. When in actuality, you are worthy beyond worthy. It's actually completely arrogant to say you're not worthy. You exist. If you exist, why would you think for a second that someone made a mistake? You exist. That is so much in that, it's ridiculous. You exist. You are important. You are beautiful. We're changing. We're metamorphing into something that's going to be amazing. But people who want to live in fear, and that's their choice, they're going to have the most problems. They may not make it into a new world. One that metamorphoses and change drastically. Just like the butterfly. The butterfly goes from one species of animal, a caterpillar, into something completely different. It changes. That's showing us in real time that animals and things change drastically fast, not over millions of years. And what the caterpillar calls the end of the world, a master calls a butterfly. And we know that there are lots of cells in the caterpillar when it comes time that'll go crazy, and they think, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, and they actually die out. But there are cells in a butterfly in the cocoon that are actually called imaginary cells. These cells that they call imaginary cells are actually the new birth to the new to the butterfly. These cells think of a new plan, they think of a new way. Instead of fighting the old system and complaining about it and say, this is what's wrong with it, this is bad, they find a better way and put all of their energy, all of their time, focusing on that to change what's happening. Socrates said, you know, better to, we shouldn't, try not to focus on what's wrong, we try to focus on what's better and put our energy towards that. So I think that's exactly what we should be doing. And this is a book by Bruce Lipton, Spontaneous Evolution, where he talks about imaginary cells, he talks about the evolving of ourselves, and I think that's something, a great read to check out. This is also the Phoenix. Phoenix rising from the ash, the metamorphosis of change, that things are changing, that things will evolve, things will get better. And we're going to come back and we're going to be even better for it. That's exactly what's happening. So this is our evolution. Like I said, things are evolving. They don't take millions of years, but they change spontaneously when things happen. And now, according to Thoth-Theology, man is in the process of changing to forms of light that are not of this world. And I think that's incredibly profound. So what's happening? Our light body is getting activated. This light that's inside of us that makes us who we are, this consciousness, this awareness that can come in and out of these bodies. It's not when you die and you see someone laying there, it's like, where did so-and-so go? Like, what happened to him? Their body's still there, everything is there, but all of a sudden everything's gone, nothing's working. We are activating this light body inside of us, this consciousness and this awareness, to become all what we are and all that we're supposed to be. And so, these are what's happening. We're actually turning these centers on, and these are our 7 chakras, our seven lampstands, from the root to the crown, and your third eye, your throat chakra, your heart, solar plexus. We're turning these centers on, each one having a very defined way of turning it on and understanding that comes along with turning these fields on. You see this picture right here, the star that goes around is like the Merkaba star, 64 star tetrahedron that goes around your body. And so we're looking at these pictures, these chakra pictures, but we're also noticing too that these people are all meditating. And I'm not saying that meditation is the only way that we can turn these centers on. Obviously eating right, living right, but what we don't realize sometimes about meditation is like people say, well, what can I gain from meditation by sitting? You can let the whole universe inside of you, which it already is. But you're not gaining anything from meditation. Actually, you're letting go. You're conquering yourself. Buddha said a man who conquers himself is greater than one who conquers 1,000 men in battle. You're conquering your reptilian behavior. You're conquering your anger. You're conquering all of these things. They say you have so many tens of thousands of thoughts per day. We need to let go of a lot of these thoughts and a lot of this worry and a lot of this anxiety that's bringing us down, that's depressing us, and that's living a life in fear. We need to let go of those things. And when you do that, you're literally conquering your reptilian nature. But so meditation is a good way. It is a great way to sit in silence, to reflect, to let go, to go to that place in your own self, inside of you, where all the answers lie. No one knows your body better than you do. No doctor, nobody. Nobody. If there's some disease that you have, there's something going on in your life, there's no better person to find out the answer from than you. Nobody knows you better than you do. And there's no one better to trust in the universe besides yourself. That's very important. I like this picture too because it looks like he's spinning a galaxy, or a chakra point at the same time. So we have to let go. We have to let go of our anger. We have to let go of our egos. That I'm better than you, my car looks better than you, or I look better than you. These things are ridiculous. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this Kundalini energy. This Buddha has conquered this Kundalini energy. He's conquering the serpent within. The serpent that we hear about in the Bible that comes down, that gives the knowledge to Eve. Here it is again, the Kundalini energy. As it rises up, it spins the chakras. One goes up and one's coming down simultaneously. So these, as one goes up and one comes down, they're spinning your chakras. You can actually feel this when you start to turn your Kundalini, your energy on. You actually feel the spinning of your chakras. You feel this balanced, active energy, which looks just like the caduceus that you see. So it looks, it's kind of, looks and feels something like this. And as it reaches up higher, more enlightenment, more understandings, more revelations, more awareness, more consciousness. You have to conquer it. You have to conquer yourself. And so again, this is the medical symbol that you see in every hospital, on every ambulance. It's Moses' staff that he had put up to make people feel better and to look up when they got sick. And it's pretty crazy that it actually has this spiral, just like the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. And so here's a great piece of artwork that I think is representation of awakening, fully awakening your Kundalini energy as it gets to these higher vertebrae in your spine and up to your third eye. Then you actually completely awaken your third eye. And then look at this picture. It's also very similar, obviously, to where the crown of the head is, also to the Confucius picture I showed you earlier, where his crown on top of his head was right here, and it looks just like this flower of life blossoming. Maybe each of us are literally like seeds, and the majority of every seed never becomes a tree. The majority of seeds never become trees. They never blossom. But every once in a while, one gets in the right soil, and it blasts outside of itself, and it looks outside of itself, and it gets outside of its own comfort zone, and looks outside of the box and has to say, I think I'll be safe. I'll be safe. And it jumps out of that seed, and it takes root in the ground, and it starts to grow. It grows up, down, and all around. So this Kundalini energy literally enhances everything about you. And it brings you into enlightenment. It brings you into an understanding of yourself, an understanding of nature, an understanding of everything you need to know. It's already in you. You don't need books. You don't need to go to school. You don't need someone to forgive you of your sins. Anything. You're already forgiven. You're already unconditionally loved. And when you start to realize this, the universe communicates with you. And that, hey, you're accessing all of who you really are. I think these are great. These are, I guess, Ascension pictures. It's beautiful. That's the great saying. The greatest souls are awakened out of suffering. The most impressive personalities endure many scars. Think about it like this. If I have a mountain and there's wind and erosion and all these things that are giving what you quote-unquote scars to the mountain, right? You could take away those things and make it be a little bit more pleasant. But how much beautiful does the mountain look because of the scars, because of the wind, because of the erosion? Every single person has to endure these sufferings, this darkness. You cannot know the light without knowing the darkness, and you cannot know light without knowing darkness. It is a balance. It is part of the whole oneness of aspect of that we have to realize that suffering helps us see compassion. It helps us understand that we were in the right place when these things happened. I was in a car accident when I was a little kid, and I was in a wheelchair, and I found it very suffering. A lot of suffering in the fact that people made fun of you for what I looked like, and that I wasn't normal. I was in a wheelchair, and at the time it was terrible. But take a step back and look at it from my being older, I realized that how much compassion it gave me to people in wheelchairs, how much compassion it gave me to people who were sick, who couldn't actually do the other things that other people could do. That suffering helps you understand, it helps you learn, it helps you evolve, and it helps you grow. So it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. You know, if a small child is raped and could seemingly be the worst thing, and you have every right to be angry, you have every right to be mad, you have every right to be upset the rest of your life and not trust anybody else if you want to. That's your choice. But if you take that and you become stronger for it, and that person creates some kind of company where people who are raped are allowed to come and share their stories, and because this person shares that same suffering that happened to you, you're more compassionate, you're more understanding, you help people in that way. So it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. And this suffering, I think, is crucial to making us realize who we really are, and the awesomeness and the beauty and the understanding that we all truly already have. We're already enlightened. We just have to remove the barriers. We have to remove all these things that we told ourselves that we weren't. These Torus, you can see it. And now when you know what a Torus is, you see pictures like this, you start to realize, look at that, I see the Torus there. You didn't know that, you'd be like just a cool looking painting or a picture. But whether they're aware of this or not, this came from someone's mind's eye, their creativity source, and they drew this, whether they knew that a Torus exists or not, I don't know. The cosmic Christ, the Christ consciousness, it's something, the Buddha nature, Krishna spirit, whatever it is, we can all get there. We can all ascend. The coming of Christ is not Christ, Jesus Christ coming back at some random time for everybody to see. Coming of Christ is coming of Christ in you. It's the coming of Christ in me. It's that coming back and that feeling and that oneness and that energy and that light inside of you and that love inside of you. When these ascended masters, the powerful, loving, and wise spiritual teachers are always watching over you and guiding us, that's absolutely true. They're absolutely all there. And guess what? They don't care about Hinduism. They don't care about Christian. They don't care about Buddhism. They care about one thing: love. Unconditional love. That's it. That's the key. Love everyone as I have loved you, and then you'll know you're my disciples. They're all around us all the time, talking to us, wanting to help us, but we have to stop and listen. But our lives are so chaotic. They're so, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to take this kid to the baseball game, and I got to go work, and I don't have time to go to this. That's what's wrong. Slow down. Stop getting so engulfed into the physical parts of life and realize that we are all Buddhas. We're all Buddhas. All of us. Jesus said, "It is written, ye are gods." John 10:34. It's in the Bible. Ye are gods. They were going to stone him for being blasphemous. And he said, "It is written that ye are all gods." Wow. Helps me realize that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we stop thinking that we are this physical body, this is me, I'm this guy, we start to realize you're this, you're light, you come from the source, you are the light. When we all start to live our life like that, the world will be a better place for all of us. And I want to thank you guys for coming out today. I really appreciate it.